Hey everyone, I'm Leo,
I'm Frank.
and welcome to a special quarantine edition of
Terror Recollect. Hey guys, thanks for joining us once again. This is episode 5 of Terror Recollect season 2. And as you can see, we're doing things a little bit differently. Certain circumstances have prevented us from doing the usual routine that we do. So we're going to change it up a bit.
So even though Frank is in his house
and Leo is in his house,
we thought we would just do this extra little bit to make sure that we brought you guys another amazing episode of Terror Recollect. So
as always,
Frank, what
yes,
is
sir.
our topic for today?
Our topic is another top 5 episode for you guys today. And the reason why we're doing another top 5 episode is because, one, we had so much fun doing it the last time, right? So, and the second reason is, well, it's episode 5, so why not do a top 5?
Very nice.
So what we wanted to do, we wanted to do something kind of fun as far as our content for this episode. We wanted to do a top 5 horror films that deserve a sequel or a remake or reboot.
I'm going to enjoy this. Frank's going to enjoy this. Both of you out there are going to enjoy this. So Frank, take it away.
Sir. So my number 5 on my list is Wes Craven's Shocker. I rewatched this the other day, and it's basically about a serial killer who gets put on death row. His soul basically returns and terrorizes people through electricity. It's not a horrible, premise. It's actually kind of fun. However, I remember the effects being really bad for the time.
It was like very early 90s, right? It must have been like 1990 exactly.
Yeah, something like that. And it's just, I think with an updated cast, updated effects and things like that, I think it could be a really fun-ass movie.
I completely agree. I enjoyed that movie a lot when I was a young person, and I was in junior high when that movie came out, and it was the talk of the friends in junior high. And it was a good movie. I think for the time, the effects were good, but now it just does not hold up. So I agree. That's one that would make for a great remake.
I'm going to throw it over to you, Leo. What is your number 5?
The sequel to Jackie Earle Haley starring in A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake. I will explain shortly. For those who don't know, it's basically a remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. However, there are certain elements of it that were very much updated for this new telling, one of which being the micronaps. A lot of people probably were like, whatever, but I thought it was so cool to be able to see people in 2 different settings. And even just the dream sequences were like these bigger budget dream sequences, because towards the end of Nightmare on Elm Street, the film series, not counting Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the death scenes were getting kind of jokey and hokey, and these were like a serious, mean group of death scenes. So it was very dark, very moody, and I was always like, you know what? Michael Myers, where is it? Rob Zombie's Michael Myers got 2 entries. Wait, that one and that one. And Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Andrew Bernarski's version, had 2 entries. So I thought it would be awesome. I would love for Platinum Dunes or someone else to just continue from that Nightmare on Elm Street and give us a proper sequel. Otherwise, it's just kind of this redheaded stepchild in the corner. And honestly, I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but I think it's a really, really good movie. So...
and I do love the micro-nap thing. That was my favorite part of the entire film. It was something new, and it was very cool, especially the scene with her in the pharmacy.
Yeah,
and,
that was amazing. I loved it.
That was brilliant. Yeah.
So then that's my number 5 pick. So then, Frank, what's your number 4 pick?
It's a sequel, not a remake. I'm going to say a Knock Knock 2.
Knock Knock.
And so Knock Knock 2, it's an Eli Roth film. It's basically about this guy. He's a family man. Perfect, he's got that perfect life. He loves his family, yada, yada. He's very successful, him and his wife. His family goes out of town, and he's left alone in the house. And these 2 girls, these very attractive young ladies show up asking to use their phone, etc. They're stranded, yada yada yada, and then they basically seduce him, and he basically becomes at their mercy because they turn out to be very crazy chicks. They tie him up, they torture him, and things like that. And things just kind of spiral downward from there. Yeah, I mean it's very tense. It's a very tense movie. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of one of those ones where you watch it and you kind of put yourself in that position, like what would I do type thing. Mm-hmm. It's very fun.
I like it. That's a good number 4. So you're saying sequel to that.
Sequel to that, Knock Knock 2, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, Leo, what is your number 4?
My number 4 pick, so, is basically, it's Creepshow 3. Now, for those horror geeks who are sitting there going, like, there's already a Creepshow 3. Yeah, have you seen Creepshow 3? It's atrocious. It shouldn't even be called it. It's basically, it looks like a fan film. It looks like just a bunch of dudes got together and was like, we like Creepshow. I think they bought the name for a weekend and made a very horrible Creepshow 3. And the thing is, for me, Creepshow has a very special place in my heart. You actually get good directing from, at least in the first one, from George Romero. You get Tom Savini's makeup effects, and you get the writing from Stephen King. So it is an amazing trifecta of movie going. All the actors are great. All the acting is great. Creepshow 2 has a lot of that same essence. It's not as pure maybe as the first Creepshow, but it's still really, really, really good. So I think as a fan, I'd always wanted to see where that would leave us off. Can you give us one more installment that gives us that feel good, rent a movie on a Saturday, get a bunch of junk food, and just sit there and be taken away on these worlds that are unlike anything else? The Creepshow series from Shudder is probably the closest I've gotten, but that's one that I, for years, have strongly felt needed a sequel, just because it was such a unique film-going experience. So that's the one for me. That's my number 4. Frank, what is your number 3?
3. My number 3. I would love to see Disturbing Behavior 2. It's basically, James Marsden's family. They moved to this new town, and there's something going around the school. There's this group called the Blue Ribbons, and basically they're these nice students, straight A students. But they come to find out there's something a little bit more. They're like kind of like the counselor, the school counselor or whatever. He's performing these procedures or these experiments on the students that basically makes them into these perfect individuals, these perfect students, and but sometimes things go a little crazy and they get violent and things like that. So I've heard a lot of people say like, well, it's one of those things that leaves off for a sequel, but we never got it, and I don't know why. So what is your number 3, my good friend?
Halloween 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this might be a little confusing to some, but I'm going to make it very crystal clear. Yes, Halloween 3 is in itself a sequel, but is it really? No. It doesn't have any material that comes before it, nor any material that comes after it. In its own way, it is a standalone in the Halloween series. Now, Frank recently had the opportunity to watch it, and although he hadn't liked it for years and couldn't bring himself to watch it, he actually found himself enjoying it. Now, yes. I think that's something that a majority of people can get to.
Yeah.
Because on its own, it's just a very, very well-made movie. I mean, the thing that killed them was saying, "Oh yeah, it's Halloween 3," and everyone looking at Michael. I mean, it's like a broken record at this point. Everyone knows that's why everyone got pissed off about it. But they never explained what happened when Tom Atkins is yelling, "Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!" I always wanted to see what would happen. It could take place years later. It could take place in present day, because I think one of the things is that they say it's time again. The planets are the ones that decide this.
That's brilliant. Actually, that's good. And Leo mentioned that I recently became a fan of this movie because I was a real big hater of this movie, even though I hadn't seen it. I look back and I'm like, man, I was very blind.
So even just, I'm just waiting for that. So,
Yeah.
though it's already called Halloween 3, it's not a sequel to anything, and it
Yeah.
needs its own follow-up, its own sequel.
The continuation of that would pull it away from Halloween. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it would help make it its own thing.
Removing it from that series and then saying you can look at it as this kind of side note. I think that's what they were trying to do. So if they were to do a sequel, they could keep it just to the side, and then you still have your, for your purist fans, you'd still have that body of work, which is Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
It's a, I think it would be a movie.
If anything could work, it's that. Honestly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That's my pick for my number 3. So then, Franklin, what is your number 2 pick?
Would you rather?
Oh, yes. Would you rather? I love
Would you rather?
that movie.
Jeffrey Combs, amazing in that movie. I'm going to say spoilers because I know that you've seen it, so I can talk about the ending. The bad guys don't die. It's obviously opened up for a sequel.
For those who don't know, this takes place in a house.
Right.
It's got a little bit of a house on haunted hill kind of feeling, a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And a large majority takes place in just one room. And I was
Absolutely.
surprised how well the pacing is for a modern movie that takes place in just one room. It takes a lot of pre-planning to get all the photography just right, but
nothing crazy. Keep it simple like the first one was. Don't go over the top with the things that they have to do. And bring back the same actors. Jeffrey Combs has to be in it. Even the guy that played his name's Bevins, the butler or whatever.
Yeah, he was good. He was good.
Yeah. Yeah. So bring back those guys.
And who was alive needs to come back. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it just stayed true to that and it just stayed, simple.
Mm-hmm.
Would You Rather 2 would be my number 2 pick.
I think that would be great.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a great concept. It was a very entertaining, very engaging movie. It wasn't just like, I usually don't like the word entertaining because it just means like, hey, look, I'm juggling. Are you entertained? Or like a guy on a unicycle, playing a trumpet with a little umbrella. No, that's entertainment, or whatever. I prefer the word engaging. It was a very engaging experience. I agree with that needing a sequel completely.
So let me shoot it over to you. What's your number 2 pick?
Back in the days, the Universal monsters kind of ruled the world. Mm-hmm. One of the early ones was the James Whale film Frankenstein, which, if you're a horror fan worth your salt, you know that Frankenstein is not the name of the monster. Frankenstein is the name of the scientist. But this is an amazing horror film. It's an amazing film in general. And it did what the sequel or the follow-up did what very few movies can do, which is maintain that same intensity, that same quality. James Whale also directed this movie. It's almost like Godfather 1 and Godfather 2. They were like a part 1 and a part 2 of the same story because it did what Halloween 2 did. It actually picks up where the other one leaves off. And Frankenstein's monster is actually all, messed up from everything that happened at the end of that one. And this one does leave off on a bit of a cliffhanger. I mean, a bit. Yeah, let's just say it leaves off on a cliffhanger. And then the movie that followed that is called Son of Frankenstein. And the thing is, although this is a good movie and actually does feature Boris Karloff returning in the role as Frankenstein's monster, it did not, however, pick up after the events of Bride of Frankenstein. And then there's like these tales that they say later on in the movie about these different things that occurred, but it's like, wait, none of that was shown. So I think you guys missed a movie. If there should have been a follow-up to Bride of Frankenstein. I felt like Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein needed that third chapter, almost that third act, to kind of really give us this presentation. And me personally, I wouldn't want to see it done as a modern horror film. I would want to see it done in a very throwback style, kind of like the way I would have liked Creepshow 3 to be done, of the era. Like, shoot it in black and white, don't have it in widescreen, have it with the pillar boxed, where you just kind of have the 4:3. And the style of editing, the style of lighting, the style of everything, and give us that missing chapter in the Frankenstein series is what I would want to see. Whether anyone else wants to see it or it'll ever get made, I don't know. But as a fan, I've always been passionate about that. Are we down to your number one, Frank?
We are down to my number one.
Hey! All right. So what is your number one for a movie that deserves a reboot, remake, or sequel?
Is Trick or Treat.
Nice. Yes.
And I think it's great. And you know, bring back Sam, obviously, because he's like the staple.
Yeah.
And just different
revolves around.
It's the things you shouldn't do on Halloween, like, you know, don't blow out the candle in the pumpkin, and you know, things like that. He's kind of there to like make sure that people follow the Halloween rules, so to speak. And I think you could have so much fun with a sequel. But yeah, that would be my number one pick. I kind of I was fighting over this or Would You Rather, but Trick or Treat, man, is my number one.
I like it.
Trick or Treat 2.
Yeah, that would be a great one. So I applaud you, sir, on your on your top 5, and for picking a really great one for your number one.
Thank you, sir. Wait, last but not least, drum roll. What is your number one?
So my choice for a movie that needs a follow-up is Texas Chainsaw, but Texas Chainsaw 3D.
Hey, but this one stars Alexandra Daddario. So
yeah. Essentially what happens is they are continuing the events of the very, very first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, the original immortal classic. Well, they say that for Halloween, but I think this is a little immortal classic too. The original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They ignore the events of Texas Chainsaw 2, 3, and 4. So what I want to see is basically a continuation where Alexandra Daddario specifically, and I'm hoping that she accepts. I mean, I don't have an offer to give her, but when the offer comes to complete the storyline in Texas Chainsaw 3D, that she accepts. And to have the two of them continue forward in this story, even have that understanding. You know, she even kind of has this turn at the end of this one where she kind of assists her cousin Leatherface into killing somebody, and then she goes, "I'm a Sawyer," and it's like, okay, let's see where that growth happens. Let's see where that growth happens with this beautiful woman, and just kind of playing with that, kind of playing with her as a femme fatale. And maybe even tying it into some of the other movies and saying that this whole thing, because I'm a big sucker for continuity, maybe they can find a way to make 2, 3, and 4 also fit into that timeline. But that is what I would want to see as my number one. Believe it or not, that is my number one. Just because I would love to see Leatherface get another burst of adrenaline into his character, into his story, and have Texas Chainsaw Massacre mean something.
All right. Well, do you want to wrap this one up?
I think we're at a good wrap-up point to the two of you that watch.
Yeah.
And we thank you for your viewership. But you know what? Even if we had 0 views, I would do this show for the next 20 years. Just because it's a wonderful exercise. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Release.
Absolutely. Yeah. Release is huge because you have passion, and passion cannot be contained. You have to wear shirts, you get tattoos, you do all kinds of stuff. You buy stuff, you fill your racks with it, you fill your glass cases with it. That's passion. And this is just another way of expressing that passion. So thank you everyone for being a part of this, and we'll see you next time.
Later.